Getting ready to do a show.
Because no matter what, no matter where, you need the truth. And specifically, if you're listening from Newport Richey to St. Petersburg or from Tampa to the coast, you can get the answer on FM 93.7. Always on AM 860, online at theanswertampa.com. And depending on where you are, on FM 93.7.
Ready for 2022 to be different? Enjoy the work you do? Check. Obtain professional licenses that never expire? Check. Begin a rewarding career in aviation? Check. Complete training and start earning a competitive salary? Check. And do it all in as little as 14 months? Check. Classes begin March 21st. Apply now. Call National Aviation Academy 800-659-2080 or visit wingmenwanted.com. For more information about our statistics, visit naa.edu/consumer-information.
AM 860, The Answer. Online at theanswertampa.com.
Odyssey.
Here is your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Mostly sunshine today, the high 79, partly cloudy skies tonight, low 61. Mostly sunny tomorrow and warmer, Monday's high 83. Clear tomorrow night, low 64. Tuesday will be mostly sunny, that day's high of 85 nears the record high for the date of 87, set in 2018. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Sally Sherman for AM 860, The Answer.
This is Dr. Bill, your radio MD, coming at you on AM 860 The Answer and 970 or something like that FM. And then we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and my website, drbillradiomd.com, and a couple other platforms. I can't remember them all. And I got Ken with me today, thank God.
Morning, Doc.
I'm not alone. It gets so scary out here. So we had the president of our homeowners association over for dinner last night, and one of his buddies and their wives. And I bought a little grill at Home Depot. It's called a Nex grill, Nexgrill. It's a little tabletop job, 2 burners, propane. So you hook it up to your propane tank just like you would a regular grill. It's only $129. Not bad. All stainless steel.
How did the burgers taste?
Well, we actually had Korean barbecue, and she really goes to town with that. She marinates that for 2 or 3 days. It's a super duper special mix with pears and soy sauce and onions and garlic, and I don't know what all she puts in there. I don't want to know.
Sounds pretty good.
Oh, it's really tasty. It's really good. She does a good job when she gets going. Of course, she way overdoes it, makes way too much food, and everybody's on the floor rolling around in agony. But their taste buds are happy. So
that's what you want at the end of a dinner. Everybody rolling around in agony.
You want everybody rolling around in ecstasy and agony. You don't want to just. So
the grill worked well. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Everybody had a good time, and I just got a text from the president, and he said, "Oh, that was a wonderful meal." He didn't even want to come over. I had to make him. He's a little bit of he's averse to interacting in large crowds. He likes to do one-on-one telephone kind of stuff and face-to-face kind of stuff, which is fine with me. I do that all day long, though. I like to do a big audience every now and then, like you, Ken. You're my big audience.
We've got lots to say.
We do. And speaking of which, what do you think about the inflation rate that's going on?
It's getting a little tough to do all kinds of things as far as shop right now. I was in the grocery store the other day. I couldn't believe what cost me $70. It was like 4, 5, 6 items. That was it.
It's unbelievable. And the latest is 7.5% jump in consumer prices over the past 12 months. And it's probably going to go on for another year, so the experts say. Now, the annualized rate of rise for, I guess, the things that you get at home, like heating and all that, is only 3.7%. But housing prices jumped 20%, and rents have gone up at least 13%. That's a big jump, guy.
In 1 year, that's massive. Has that ever happened before?
I don't think we've seen that for 40, 50 years now. And the
average, maybe back in the 70s or something like that, we might have seen it, but yeah.
Yeah, and the average weekly earnings have fallen, adjusted for inflation and adjusted for all of the other things that they throw into it. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics keeps all this. It's fallen by 3.1%, even though people have gotten 5, 6, 7% raises. The actual weekly earnings, because of the inflation adjustment, has fallen 3.1%.
Just can't get ahead.
And that's the worst case since the series began, since I started keeping this in 2007, and it's even worse than at the bottom of the 2008 recession. Can you believe that?
Well, the price of gas is starting to scare me a little bit. I'm hearing talk about maybe $5 a gallon if this whole Russia thing blows up.
Oh, well, it's going to blow up. I mean, they're already baiting the Ukrainians, trying to get them to come out. In eastern Ukraine, they're firing on they're supposedly Russian separatists, Ukrainian Russian separatists that are shelling the Ukrainians on the other side of the contested area. But you know that Russian troops are in there. I mean, you just know they are. I mean, just like we send troops in when we say we're not in some place, and then all of a sudden, they pop up and they're assaulting a prison in Kurdistan somewhere. It's craziness. I don't know if people can really believe all of this nonsense they hear. But did you see where the Ukrainian president is asking Vladimir Putin not to attack and to sit down and talk with him, and their foreign minister is saying attack is imminent, that they're already shelling us. So, and I hear people saying, oh, it's just Putin making a grandstand, and Biden's probably behind the scenes manipulating it so he can get the heat off of him for his domestic policies and do something overseas. And what's he doing? I mean, really, what is he doing?
What can he really do?
The best thing he could do would be to send 100,000 troops into the Ukraine and tanks and artillery and tell the Russians, we want to be your friends. We just want to play ball with you. Can we have a soccer game between the two?
We'll be the skins. Yeah.
Yeah. So the worst is yet to come with inflation, and the experts are saying it's going to be another year before we see it cool down. So that's
Well, the price of oil keeps going up, and we're looking at around $100 a barrel, maybe by if they step into Yugoslavia, not Yugoslavia, Ukraine, they will.
oh yeah,
You'll see oil jump.
you will see it jump big time. And the Russians have been cutting down on supplies of gas to Western Europe over the past several months to kind of remind them that they got a stranglehold on. And I think they're supplying like 40% of the natural gas to Western Europe, which would be primarily Germany, Austria, Hungary, and I guess to a lesser extent France. But that's a big chunk of their natural resources for energy, 40%.
Well, having them shut off Germany's natural gas supply would not be good in the middle of winter. So.
No, it would not. And the Germans are all upset, and they don't want the pipelines to be shut down. And they say, we don't care if they invade the Ukraine. We just want our gas.
Yeah.
And they even are pointing out that at the height of the Cold War, that Germany and Russia, the USSR, were still doing business. The Russians were still pumping gas and oil to the Germans. Did you know that?
I did not, but it kind of makes sense. They still need to make money, or whatever rubles. They still need to make rubles.
Yeah, they got to make some rubles, or
they
ain't got nothing in the national coffers. And the Germans, I guess, don't have enough of their own natural resources. Even during World War II, one of the reasons they co-opted Romania, even though they didn't actually invade Romania, they were an ally. They were part of the Axis, was because the Romanians had the oil fields. And the reason the Germans wanted southern Russia was because that's where the Russians had their oil fields. So southwestern Russia and Romania and that whole area around the Black Sea, I guess it's fairly rich in oil. It's a mess. It's a mess, Ken. And it's a mess of, I hate to say it, it's a mess of the Democrats making. And I just keep remembering my sisters when Trump got elected and started building up the military. He's going to take us to war. I said, no, are you crazy? You don't go to war by building up your armaments. You stay out of war that way. They don't.
Precisely, Doctor.
They don't get it. And then Biden comes in and starts cutting the budget and says, oh, we're going to focus on domestic issues, and we're going to help babies get more pablum and more, so they can get fatter, so we can have bigger, fatter kids, and get them in school earlier, so we can brainwash them earlier. And I don't know, Ken, I am lost. I am really lost.
Well, I could see how Putin could be sitting there looking at this country and what happened, trying to get out of Afghanistan, and just the debacle there and the miscommunication, and they seemed like completely unorganized. I could see where you could say, hey, you know what? We could probably walk into Ukraine and
nobody's
big
going to
cakewalk. Yeah, that's right.
What's going to happen? But again,
they can't even get out of Afghanistan without making a mess.
And the problem here is that if they do go in and we do implement all these sanctions that we're threatening, we could really crimp their economy. And as I said last week, an unstable Russia is an unstable world. And that's the last thing we want to do. Reagan realized that. Bush and Clinton, Bush too, they all realized that an unstable Russia is an unstable world, and that the last thing we want to do is economically isolate and force these people into a recession that would drive their economy down to the point where people are restless. And then when they're restless, well, what do you think a dictatorial government's going to do? They're going to look outside for a war. That's good for business.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're right.
Unfortunately, it puts people who are out of work to work. They're in the Army. It gives farmers something to do because now they got to feed all these guys that are on the march. It gives the doctors and nurses something to do. The factory workers can shift from cars to jeeps and tanks and artillery, and so it's good for an economy. I mean, it's just
Well, it brought us World War II ended the Great Depression.
yeah. I think that the central banks in Europe, like in Romania, which had some money, they said, "Well, this is craziness. Why are we not lending money and getting the economies up and rolling?" Because what the world had done is all the banks had shut down during the Depression, saying, "Oh, well, these are bad risks, so we're not going to make any loans." Now we know we do just the opposite. You flood the market with more money because that's the blood, that's the life flow. So if the patient's dying, you don't refuse to give them a transfusion. You give them a transfusion. And so the Romanians said, "Okay, well, Germany needs money. They want to start rebuilding." This was in the early 30s when Hitler came into power, 32, 33. The Romanians said, "All right, we'll make you guys loans. And here's the interest rate." And the Germans said, "Great, thanks. By the way, we'd like some of your oil too." And, that's how the whole Great Depression ended, was because Germany started rearming and started building. They built their autobahns, which were the first interstates, as you know. And the reason that Hitler did that was because it would stimulate the economy, stimulate travel, and also give roads for the military to travel on. And that's when the Volkswagen became a very popular car in Germany. You remember that?
I remember the Volkswagen, the Bug, yeah.
It was called the People's Wagon. That's what it means in German. Volkswagen, the People's Wagon. And
Had the engine on the wrong side of the car, but it worked all right, I guess.
yeah, and so the Germans were happy. They were all buying cars. They had work to do. They were making armaments. They were making building buildings. They were doing this and that, and the whole world was going there and saying, "Look at this miracle that the Nazis are doing in Germany. Oh my God, we want to be like them." Well, that didn't end too well, bud. You may you may remember.
Yeah, it was in all the papers. I read about it, yeah.
In some of the history books, but I'm sure the revisionists will rewrite it and say, well, actually, it was a good time, except for that little minor thing with the Jews and the Ukrainians and the Poles and the Southern Russians who took it on the chin. But they're doing fine now, so what's the big deal?
Yeah, it was only 50 million dead.
Yeah, what the heck. 6 million Jews, they'll make more.
Yeah.
Send them to Israel, they'll make a bunch more there. And the Ukrainians, well, they know how to make babies too, and the Russians, there's no shortage of babies there. Although I think they're probably sinking into that zero growth state now, like so much of the world.
We're getting kind of close to that, are we not?
We are.
Yeah.
I think we're about there, but we're growing by importation. I don't get it. Why would you want to abort babies and then import them? I mean, think about it, Ken. If you have your own baby, at least you know a little something about it. It's got some of your genetics, and the communication's going to be easier just because of that. Their family, and you're going to be able to watch them grow and influence their morals and values and how they grow up. But when we import people from south of the border or from wherever, and a lot of them are full-grown males in their 18 to 25 age bracket, you're getting something that's already formed. And how are you going to change that? You're not. You're not going to change that. So how do you mold these people into our society? Well, a lot of them remain on the margins. You know what I mean? I mean, they're out there, but they're not actually integrated fully into society. And I saw that with the Mexican workers that we hired when we were building my house over in the club. And they all lived in a trailer, and they hot bunked it because I think there were 8 or 10 of them in a trailer that slept, 4 or 5. So, and some worked nights and some worked days and some worked the evening shift, and so they just hot bunked it. And they really didn't intermingle much with the community. They stayed within themselves. 1 or 2 of them spoke English, and the rest of them did not. The women obviously were the main speakers because women are better with language than men. I don't care what the social revisionists are telling us. I can see that. I can figure that out, having raised boys and girls. It just is as simple as pie. The girls have a brain for that, and the guys a lot of times don't. But that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you like language when you were in high school?
Um, no, it wasn't really my favorite,
No, nor mine.
but neither was mathematics
Well, that I kind
or science.
that,
And I can go down the whole list.
or English.
Band. I like being in the band. That was fun.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So you had an ear for music.
I played my trombone for like 15 years in band. Yeah.
Dang, dude, you got to come on sometime and do a solo.
You know what? It's the interesting thing about being a trombone player, as opposed to like being a guitar player or a piano player. If you go to a party, somebody will always say, "Hey, why don't you play a little piano here? Play a simple song, or grab your guitar and we'll pick a little something for me." No one's ever said, "Ken, we're having a party. Bring the trombone."
Yeah, bring your trombone over. Do you mind?
No one's ever said that to me ever.
Oh, well, I'll say it to you, Ken. You and your wife are welcome for dinner at any time, and come on over and please bring your trombone.
Actually, I think I lost my lip a long time ago. I haven't played that in about 20 years now.
Oh my gosh. So I got to tell you, the mug thing. So I got one of my mugs, and I brought it up here this morning to see if I could show it off on the show. And of course, it's a off shade of green. Well, the green screen, all you.
So you're holding up nothing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was the virtual image that's projected onto my green screen. I said that ain't gonna work. But it was interesting. It was interesting.
And you can have one of those mugs, folks. We're going to be giving one away, giving two away at the bottom of the hour here, right after the news, with a trivia question about what we were talking about in the first half of the show. So if you've been listening since we came on about 22 minutes ago, you already have the answer to the question. You just have to recall it. That's all. So we'll be doing that in about 10 minutes or so.
And by the way, while we're talking about Russia, the Russians and the Iranians and the Chinese are starting their own currency exchange. And the Russians and the Iranians are not using American dollars. They're using their own currencies, the ruble and whatever the Iranians have, the dinar, I guess. And they're trying to bypass and replace the dollar as the world monetary system. Now, I don't know how successful they'll be, but they're apparently doing well at this point. And as we inch closer and closer to reestablishing this nuclear deal with the Iranians, the world is looking at them and saying, well, we need you. Why? They have one of the largest supplies of natural gas of anywhere in the world. They've got about 20% of the world's oil reserves. They have reserves of minerals such as chromium, lead, manganese, sulfur, gold, uranium, titanium, and vast reserves of lithium. So when they open up and break out, they're going to have a lot of power, and we're going to be the ones that are helping them get there. And, of course, the Israelis are not happy about this. And we're not going to be happy either. This is going to turn out to be a disaster for the world. So they have, not 20%, 10% of the world's total oil reserves. That's still a big number, Ken.
That's a healthy chunk, yep.
That's a healthy chunk. And so as we inch towards allowing them to have all of their resources, economic resources back, because even though they're trading with the Russians just don't have the banking system that we have. And we have the ability to shut down their economy as we have. And, they were one of the last countries to get COVID vaccine and medications for COVID treatment. So, and we don't even know what's going on in their country in terms of the effects of COVID on their population and on their economy. We're not going to get straight answers out of there, but I'm sure they got some of that Sputnik vaccine from the Russians, which apparently works reasonably well. But sanctions had frozen Iran's assets and affected other things, including gas, oil, petrochemicals, and their ability to mine and tap their natural resources. And they're one of the richest countries on earth in terms of natural resources. I did not realize that. Not only is
I didn't know that either, Doc. I didn't know they had so much over there.
They have huge reserves of all kinds of stuff. And I think they're like number 3 or 4 in the world, or 5th in the world, based on natural resources. They're ahead of China and way above India. They have more natural resources than China.
That's phenomenal.
That is phenomenal. And we're going to enable these people to do business with the Chinese and the Russians and anybody else in the neighborhood that wants to do business with them. This is not a good thing we're doing. So,
the world's so complicated today, Doc.
well, I don't know if it's any more complicated, but it's certainly much more in our face. This is the same kind of stuff that was going on before World War II with the Japanese, and we were protesting their incursions into Manchuria and Korea and saying, you got to stop doing this, and we started cutting back their resources, their supplies of natural resources that they didn't have that they were getting from us, and that's what precipitated their attack on us. It wasn't that we were going to attack them, it's that they wanted to neutralize us so that they could go into Southeast Asia, go deeper into Manchuria, and get more resources. And, it's interesting, at the end of the war, they were running out of everything. And the older kids, and my wife's older brothers and friends, and the older husbands of her girlfriends who were young kids or young teenagers during World War II, living in Korea, growing up in Korea. At one point, you could not go to school unless you brought a piece of silverware. You had to bring something metallic to school. Otherwise,
you had to pay your way?
You had to buy your way into school with your parents, your family's hardware, so that the Japanese would have more metal to make more armaments, because they were out. They were running out. They didn't have natural resources like iron and tin and chromium and all the things that we had. So it's really interesting and frightening at the same time to see how we are going to, with these crazy Democrats, enable this regime that is a theocracy that wants to implement Islamic rule all over the world, wants to destroy Israel, wants to subjugate all of us. Not that I think they'll be able to do it, but still, why would we even want to give them an opening, Why do we want to give despots and socio-fascists and theo-fascists, why do we want to give them that opening?
We shouldn't. No way.
I don't understand, Ken. I just don't get it. I think part of the problem is...
You want to be a responsible member of the human race in this world, you better act responsibly.
Yeah, and I think that part of the problem in the United States is that the population has been kept ignorant, and you can only get news from a few sources that has any rhyme or reason to it. The rest of it's just pablum that they're dishing to people, and stirring up animosity towards conservatives and saying, well, look, we'll make the world a safer, better place for you. Yeah, right. That's why the Russians are moving into the Ukraine, and the Chinese are...
Yeah, how's it going so far, folks?
So far, it's not doing too well, is it, Bubba?
Not really, no.
I don't know. What are you going to do? And then after it's all over, people say, oh, we didn't realize, we're sorry. We're sorry. Too late now, bud. But
well, we can't let them get the nuclear weapon. I mean, we can't let them have a bomb over there.
They're going to make one. There's no doubt about it. Have you seen all their centrifuges that they've started cranking back up? It's
well, we'll take them out again. We've taken them out a couple of times already.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, not the Democrats. They won't do it.
Well, Israel will.
Israel might take.
I'm counting on Israel.
Well, yeah, we got to open the corridor for them, though. We've got the radar jamming technology and the stealth technology, so we've got to give them that. And I think the Israelis can do it, but they got to be a little bit careful that they don't precipitate a war with some of their other neighbors. They don't need that right now.
No, you wouldn't want to start fighting the entire Middle East. You wouldn't want Saudi Arabia and everybody ganging up on you.
They're at peace with the Egyptians and somewhat with the Syrians and the what's that other little country next to them?
There's Jordan. What else is there?
Jordan.
Syria? No, they're not in good shape with Syria.
With Syria. They're at peace with Jordan. They're at peace with Egypt. They're at peace with Turkey. So they've got a nice little nest there, except for the pesky Palestinians on their border who keep firing rockets over at them. But they're developing some neat weapons. You know, warfare. Really,
They are.
really,
Yeah.
It really stimulates technology. So that the good side of war is that it stimulates growth in technology in all kinds of areas. And that, I think, is fortunately one of the good aspects of war. Unfortunately, we will continue to have wars, and people say, "Well, we're getting more tame." Yeah, I guess we are. We've had.
Well, we can find out the latest at the news if you want to take a little break, buddy.
Yeah, we can see. Let's see what the Ukrainians are up to today. I wonder if they're over there hiding, ducking behind shelters or what. All right, so let's go to break. I'm Dr. Bill, your Radio MD. Go grab a cup of Joe. We'll be right back.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach has officially closed the Beijing Olympics at the Bird's Nest Stadium today. Bach praised China and thanked the people of the country for staging the games in a safe way. It was the most locked-down Olympics ever, with participants restricted to a COVID-safe bubble where they took daily tests, wore masks, and observed strict protocols. Vice President Kamala Harris is acknowledging the, quote, real possibility of war as she wrapped up a weekend of outreach to European allies with a push to bolster the West's resolve in confronting Moscow with crippling sanctions if Russia invades Ukraine. There are increasingly dire signs that Russian President Vladimir Putin plans to order an invasion soon. And Buckingham Palace says Queen Elizabeth has tested positive for the coronavirus and is experiencing mild cold-like symptoms. This is SRN News.
It's Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need. For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy. 727-577-2220, 727-577-2220.
No girl wants to have a plain ring or something that she sees on all of her other friends' hand.
Meet Kelly Todd at International Diamond Center.
The ability to find a ring that is a reflection of her style, it makes a big difference.
And at IDC, that's easy, with diamonds in every shape and every size in stock, and literally thousands of designer rings. The possibilities are endless.
Whether it's a oval solitaire with stackable bands, a rose gold mounting with a square diamond in it, and a white gold stackable band with it. The being able to identify with their look where they have their own style, I think is very important.
So don't make her compromise. Whatever your budget, IDC has the ability to help you create that one-of-a-kind ring.
We cater to clients with a $1,500 budget. We cater to clients with a $2.3 million budget.
And with non-commissioned experts who listen and guide you every step of the way, it's easy to create the ring of her dreams at IDC.
It's not a selling environment at all.
International Diamond Center in Tampa, Clearwater, and Lakeland.
Moss Nissan is simply the best around. Many dealers are experiencing serious inventory shortages, but at Moss Nissan, we pride ourselves in having the largest selection of new and pre-owned vehicles of any Nissan dealer in the Tampa Bay area. And every vehicle we sell features Moss Care, which provides added features and benefits to both protect and enhance your investment. We also pride ourselves in making sure that every customer receives our best deal guarantee. That means receiving top dollar for your trade and the best financing rates available. At Moss Nissan, we'll do whatever it takes.
AM 860, The Answer. Online at theanswertampa.com.
Odyssey.
Here is your exclusive AccuWeather forecast.
Mostly sunshine today, the high 79, partly cloudy skies tonight, low 61. Mostly sunny tomorrow and warmer, Monday's high 83. Clear tomorrow night, low 64. Tuesday will be mostly sunny. That day's high of 85 nears the record high for the date of 87 set in 2018. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Sally Sherman for AM 860, The Answer.
And I'm back. This is Dr. Bill. Got Ken by my side. We're doing a show this morning, and I thought I would give a little shout out to Omicron virus, Ken. I think it's getting lonesome, so case numbers are dropping. So I was eating lunch with the administrator at the hospital Friday, and he said, "Oh my God, we're down to one COVID case in the hospital." I said, "That's not good." He said, "No."
I've been hearing whispers about a new variant, though. Is there anything we should be worried about since we're talking about it here?
That's the BA.2. And that has been discovered, I think, over in India, and it's starting to make its way around there. 8% of the cases now, I believe, are BA.2 positive. Now, it's no more serious than the Omicron in terms of morbidity and mortality. However, it is highly contagious, so we'll probably see another little jump. Now, here's the thing, though, Ken. It just doesn't matter what you hear on the news. It's incorrect. The vaccines do work against the variants. They may not work quite as well as they did against the original virus, the Alpha, but they still work. And that means get a booster. The booster will increase your antibody levels considerably, at least by 30 to 40%, give you a really good edge if you do catch the virus. And you know, the Queen caught the virus. You heard about it.
I heard. Charles has got it.
The whole family's got it.
With Charles, it hangs onto his ears.
It does.
It just grips onto the ear.
His ears are getting longer. He's starting to look like some of his ancestors from back in the 12th and 13th century, you know, the long faces and the tall guys and the long ears. I guess the English think that's a good look. I don't know. I personally don't think I would like that look. I like a little rounder face, you know, more of a Slovakian look, you know, a little Oriental blood mixed in there, but you know, they're pure. They're pure, that family. I understand, I don't know if this is true or not, Ken, but I understand that every English monarch since William the Conqueror and came over in 1066 has the maternal DNA of his family in it. I did not realize that.
Well, you know, inbreeding.
Inbreeding. Yeah.
Take care of that. Yeah.
Yep, that takes care of that.
Hey, want to do the question? Let's do the question before we get too long here. So we got our trivia question for 2 Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mugs. And you can win both mugs if you're the first person to answer this question at 877-969-8600. That's 877-969-8600. The question is, what did a good doctor buy at Home Depot to help entertain some folks at the house? Was this last night? When was this party you had?
Last night we had it.
Last night?
Right here at the old homestead.
All right. Doc went out to Home Depot and bought something. What was it?
You tell us, folks. We're looking forward to that.
877-969-8600 if you think you know the answer. First to answer correct answer wins.
That's right. And guess what the most correct thing is you can do? Get your
What's that?
vaccine. Get your vaccine.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Just get your vaccine. By the way, did you hear Biden's challenging the stay in Mexico policy that was implemented during the Trump regime? I don't think that it actually was before Trump. I think that Obama had passed that, but it really wasn't, or at least the Congress had passed that, but I don't think it was enforced. But he's challenging that before the Supreme Court. I don't think he's going to get anywhere with that. I think the policy will have to be enforced, and of course he is ignoring the law of the land. But that's not unusual. I mean, presidents do that all the time. You know, if you're the top cop, you get to pick and choose what you want to arrest people for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Well.
it's called prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion. That means that the prosecutor and the CEO, the president, he is over the Justice Department, and those are the prosecutors, that he gets ultimately to decide what to pursue and not pursue, unless there's a congressional mandate, like for an investigation, a special counsel like we have with Mueller and now with Durham. But those are situations where Congress has to step in and say, we demand this, and it gets done. And, of course, you need a majority in the Senate or whichever house is challenging and asking for that. So this is coming before the Supreme Court. What are the chances of Biden winning this? I don't think they're very good. And personally, I think it was and it is a great policy that should be enforced. We've just got such a chaotic mess at the border now. And did you see, though, that Texas, I guess the federal government did release some of the sections of the steel wall, and the Texans are putting it up. Did you know that?
I have been hearing things about that, yeah.
So they're starting to crank it back up. How much they'll get done and how quickly, I don't know. And I even think that Trump had started some kind of a GoFundMe thing to get some money down there to help build the wall. But I don't know. I heard that there is some kind of a fund that you can contribute to, donate to. You might want to call down to the State House in Texas and see what's going on.
Well, they have eminent domain problems.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll have to research that, and next week we'll see if that's really happening down there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't heard much about this, so yeah, we'll take a look at it next week.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing to look at. I got to mention one more thing before I go on to something else. One of my friends in the lunchroom, he's from India. He's a doctor. His name's Nick, and he was flaunting and touting how wonderful the turnout rate is for elections in India, and 95% and this and that. Well, Punjab state had a 62% turnout. Punjab is one of the big states in, I believe, northwest India, and I think it borders Pakistan. And then on Friday, India's High Court threw out a law in Punjab and Haryana state that made it mandatory that employers that their workforce be 75% of locals, of people who were residents of those two states. And the Supreme Court in India said, no, you can't do that. You're not an independent country. You're just one state in the country, and the idea is to have a unified economy, which makes sense to me. But
Sure.
But I thought those were interesting little facts coming out of India, which is still a big economy and still a big part of the world stage. They're not going anywhere, that's for sure. They've been there for 5,000-6,000 years. Did you know that? Did you know that the culture of India started in the Indus Valley 5,000-6,000 years ago? They were farming, they were building. I mean, these people have been doing a lot for millennia. They're pretty amazing. And
Now, whether they have 1 billion people there?
well, they're busy.
Yeah.
In all aspects of their life. Praise God. No, I mean,
population problem there. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. They're slowing down now, though. They have a zero population growth campaign. It's been going on since the 1970s. That's back when Indira Gandhi was paying people, giving guys a transistor radio if they'd go get a vasectomy. I'm not sure the transistor radio vasectomy. I'm trying to weigh that out on the scale. And see.
No, what? This was an actual policy they had?
That was a policy that Indira Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru's daughter, the Nehrus, they were the elitist, and he was the snot and the socialist and the big friend of Russia. And Indira thought she was a dictator. So if you were a kid walking down the street and somebody offered you a transistor radio, the wise thing would be to say, no, thank you. But
yeah.
If you said, yeah, sure, I'll take it. Come here, kid. Snip, snip.
My dog look at you. How do you like it, huh?
I've been fixed, Mommy. I've been fixed. Oof, oof.
Wow, I didn't know that at all.
Yep.
For transistor radio, huh?
For a transistor radio. Now, listen, in the 50s in the United States and maybe the early 60s, transistor radios were big with the kids, right? I mean, I remember.
Well, they were cool. Yeah, they were the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah, and and the parents said the same thing then that they say now about the kids who are playing the video games with the headset on. You're going to go deaf listening to that thing. Well, you're going to go deaf either way if you live long enough. So,
I can attest to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and take that thing out of your ear. How many times did you hear that? Oh my God, I got yelled at dozens of times. But I had my little transistor radio. But they had the control over it, the parents, because you had to use batteries on those things. Well, if they
you needed your 9-volt, that's right.
If they wouldn't buy you a battery, so much for your transistor radio.
I used to love mine back in the 60s. I would, because the Cubs, I was in Chicago back then, the Cubs would be playing out in L.A. somewhere. So the game was really late, so I would just kind of hide the radio under my pillow with an earpiece in and listen to the game till about midnight.
Your parents to leave you alone, and then.
Why are you so tired this morning, Kenneth? I listened to the game last night, Dad.
Well, at least you were doing something semi-legitimate. I was sneaking out at that age and going to visit my girlfriend.
I never snuck out of the house, never once.
Oh my God, I snuck out so often and stole their car before I could drive. Be pushing their car down the hill. Fortunately, it was a stick shift, so I could run it down the hill and get down far enough before I popped the clutch and got it going. And no, they couldn't hear it, but they probably knew. I finally got busted.
Never snuck out of the house. Never missed a day of school for ditching. I think I ditched on senior ditching day. That might have been the only day I did it.
I think I ditched one day my senior year, and one of my teachers, who was this real uptight German Catholic guy, he saw me hitchhiking the other way.
Did he pick you up, take you to school?
No, but he did report me, and
of
course I lied my teeth off and got out of that. But he was furious with me. He was very proper and religious, and I was the, there is no God kind of kid in a Catholic private boys school. That didn't
boy, you were asking for it, yeah.
He didn't like that at all. So, oh my God, what are you going to do? But that was the time, and that's where we were at then, and that transistor radios were part of the scene back in those days. And there was a lot of debate over religion. I don't think there's as much debate today. I think people are pretty well divided and have made up their minds. They're pro or they're anti-religion. Back then it was like, well, everybody's pro-religion. If you're anti-religion, there's something wrong with you. Well, yeah, there is something wrong with me, but it didn't have anything to do with religion. That was mental illness is not a God-given thing.
Well, I grew up with the nuns, so I kind of know what you're talking about a little bit there.
Yeah, well, after a while, you kind of get tired of that rapping on the knuckles and getting pushed around by the brothers and, punched in the jaw and all that. I mean, it gets old. You're 15.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, though. I think you get a better education. I really do, because when I left the Catholic school, when we moved out to the suburbs at some point in Chicago, and I started going to public school, I was about a year ahead.
Yeah, and you're ahead, and the discipline is wonderful. The morals and values of Catholicism are good. It's just just some of that religious stuff and the God thing I had a problem with. But
I didn't like wearing the tie every day either. So,
yeah,
but they were just snap-ons, so that wasn't too bad.
Well, see, I didn't have a snap-on. I had to tie mine every day, which I took a little pride in. And we had the grinder, like an area outside the lunchroom with a shed, a roof over it, and we'd go out there and smoke. Can you believe we were in high school smoking? And that was back in the days when if two guys got into a fight, one of the teachers or one of the brothers would come out and referee it. Now they throw you out of school.
That's right.
Times have changed, my friend.
Now, if we got caught with a cigarette, you were going to see the paddle with the holes in it, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Did we get a winner, by the way?
Oh, did we have a winner? Where's our? We have a winner. Yes, bring me the winner, Yana. So she's bringing her on over here right now.
All right.
Yeah, we're running downtown. We're getting close to the end of the show here, so let's get the name on.
Yeah, we got to get the name on. We only got about 8 minutes left here, dude.
And this is for two, Dr. Bill, your radio. Thank you. Your Radio MD coffee mugs. The winner is from Lake Mary, Florida. Where's Lake Mary? I'm not familiar with Lake Mary, Florida.
I think that's northeast of here.
Is it? Okay. Lake Mary from Lake Mary, Florida. Stacy Etchison had the correct answer.
Yay, Stacy, you go.
And the question was, what did the doctor buy for last night's party at the homestead from the Home Depot? And he got himself what, Doc?
I got myself a Nex grill, a little tabletop Nex grill, really nice little grill for $129 over to the Home Depot. Over to the Home Depot. I think they got them everywhere now. They're pretty popular little grills. And it really did a good job. We grilled up some Korean barbecue, and it was tasty. So that's Lake Mary, huh?
Stacy Etchison in Lake Mary. She's the winner of the 2 coffee mugs today, and we'll give away 2 more next week, so be sure to join us. As always, the question in the second half of the show always deals with the subject we talked about in the first half of the show. So you're guaranteed to win if you listen to the entire show.
You are, and a happy show.
You're always a winner when you listen to this show.
Okay, so Lake Mary is north and a little bit east of Orlando. It's up near Sanford where you jump on the car train. You know about the car train?
I do not know about the car train.
You can drive over to Sanford and get on Amtrak's car train with your car. So they'll load up your car, and you can take the train all the way up to about 30 miles south of Washington, D.C. You get off in, I can't remember if it's Fairfax or one of the little towns in Virginia, and then you just drive your car on up to D.C. if you want to go visit the Capitol. It's pretty cool.
I like that idea. I've never seen one.
It was, I love trains. It was a fun ride. So Lake Mary, we love you. You're in the right part of the world there. We were over in that area, the Mount Dora area, and Howie in the hills. Can you believe there's a town called Howie, Howie, in the hills? Beautiful area. You may not know it, but we actually have some hills in Florida.
Really? I haven't seen them.
You got to get out more, dude.
I know I should. But since I've been down here, we've been dealing with COVID pretty much.
Well, that's true. Well, now
I've only been down here like 3 years, so.
I'd just take a couple extra shots of the vaccine and go do what you want, for God's sake.
And send me on out, right?
Yeah, just grab some Advil because you're going to be sick for a few days, but you'll get over it.
Well, that's why we're still stressing we're not hitting it heavy anymore, but get those vaccines because it may not prevent the disease from coming on, but it will stop it from killing you.
Yeah, and it'll keep you out of the hospital too, unless you've got some other major problems like you're dying of lung cancer or something. By the way, Bob Saget,
yeah,
I think he tested positive for COVID at the post-mortem at the autopsy.
Did he? What was it? It was a concussion or something that killed him, didn't it? He hit his head on something.
Apparently he did, and nobody knows how he hit his head, and he had a bleed inside of his head, and that's what did him in. They said the COVID didn't have anything to do with it, but we do know that COVID can affect clotting, and whether or not that had anything to do with the bleed in the brain, I don't know. He might have had some other problems. He might have had an aneurysm in the brain. He might have had any number of things. Wouldn't
that have been fairly painful, though? I mean, would he go to sleep?
It depends on where it is. If it's a subarachnoid, you get a terrible headache, but usually that goes pretty quick. You stand up and scream, "Oh my God, my head," and you drop over.
All right.
Subdurals, which are slower and deeper inside of the lining around the brain, they don't hurt as much because the one of the linings there, you've got 3 membranes around the brain, and one's like a tough fibrous nylon, and so you don't have a lot of stretch of that, and it's when you stretch the membranes around the brain that you have the pain. So that's what gives you the pain when you get meningitis, is the inflammation of the lining around the brain, not the infection in the brain. So your brain really doesn't have much sensation, and that's why I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do brain surgery with people awake. Did you know that?
Yikes.
You put them to sleep briefly for the drilling through the skull, but once you got into the brain proper, let's say you wanted to do some surgery for epilepsy and you had to stimulate the brain, or you wanted to do some surgery for some other problem that you needed the patient to be cooperative for, because there's some seizures that they're just hallucinations or audio or visual hallucinations, and so you have to have the patient awake if you're going to ablate, if you're going to burn out that area of the brain that is causing the abnormal electrical firing. So you have to have them awake, and you touch those parts and stimulate it and see how they respond and say, oh yeah, that's it. You know, I'm seeing those images now. I know this is what it's like when I have these seizures. And then the brain surgeons would ablate, they'd burn that area out, and that would end the seizures for patients. I don't think they do that much anymore. The medications have gotten a lot better, but they still occasionally do some of that. But
that's got to be very strange as a patient.
I'll tell you what, I did a few brain surgery cases when I was an intern and resident and all that. I was amazed. I thought it was going to be this real delicate surgery. We had a gunshot wound, Ken, and a guy had about a third of his brain taken out. And so I went in with the neurosurgeon, and he opened up the skull, and the guy's bleeding profusely because, I mean, you can't clamp anything in the brain. It's just like Jell-O. And so I said, what do we do? He says, oh, we just irrigate it until it stops. We'll give him blood. So we stood there for an hour just squirting the brain with normal saline. I was like, are you serious? He said, this is how you do it. It'll stop eventually. And,
the guy survive?
Yeah, the guy survived. Of course, He was a vegetable, but
well,
it was a
bullet
case.
In the head will do that. Yes,
it was a case. I mean, he took out half his brain, so it was like having a stroke. It's truly amazing, and some of the cases in the old days were so long, Ken, that people would take a break. The doctors would say, let's break, let's go eat. So you'd break scrub, throw a sterile towel over the head, and you'd go get lunch.
2 minutes, Doc.
And then you'd come back.
Wow.
Fascinating world. So I'm surprised that Stacy called all the way from Lake Mary. Now, Stacy, male or female? Is that a female, Stacy?
Stacy, I don't know. I know it's male or female. Male, she's saying to me, yes.
Male, okay. Well, Stacy, we thank you, and it's been great having you on the show this week, and we'll get you some mugs out. Now, for the closing of the show, I wanted to tell you that the Chinese, their Belt and Road Initiative, it's reached Argentina, it's reached Iran, it's reaching into the Middle East. And by the way, if you haven't figured it out yet, they're bringing it through the old Soviet SSR states, the Kazakhstan and Tajikistan and all the little stands, and they're going to bring it right over to the Ukraine, to the Black Sea.
1 minute, Doc.
That's pretty amazing to me. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how much you can trust them. I don't know what they're going to want to do with all those roads.
We'll see what happens.
You know they're going to want something somewhere down the line. It's going to cost.
By the way, we have the PCR test in the office. So if you're going on a cruise that demands a PCR COVID test, we got the rapid one, 30 minutes. Not only do we have the antigen test, we got the PCR, a little more expensive, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. We also got the vaccine.
15 seconds.
We got the vaccine. We've got the test. We got it all. We're your one-stop body shop. Come on in and see us. I am Dr. Bill. Thanks for being on the show today. Love you, Ken. I'll see you next week.
Love you too, Doc. See you next week.
See you next week, buddy.
Thank you for listening to Dr. Bill, your radio MD. Join Dr. Bill every Sunday morning at 9 for more insight, information, provocation, and fun. Dr. Bill Handelman practices in St. Petersburg, Florida at Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic, 6399 38th Avenue North. For your convenience, telemedicine appointments are available. Call his office today at 727-384-6411. That's 727-384-6411. Or visit his website at cancareclinic.com.